Hi, I'm Kayla Hathaway, partner here at Simpatico. I'm launching our climate.edu channel to help students learn about the degree programs that are training the future leaders of the green economy. I'll be interviewing graduate program leaders about the degrees offered at their schools, how applicants can best prepare, what to expect as a student, research and internship opportunities, and long-term career prospects. I'll also be asking renowned professors and grad students for their thoughts on the types of skills undergraduates should focus on developing as they prepare for a master's or doctorate program. And now, on to today's show. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode on our Climate EDU channel. Today I'm joined by Professor Johannes Urpelainen. He will be discussing the 21-month online MA program in sustainable energy for professionals who want to help shape the future of renewable energy. The program fills key skill gaps across the energy sector, including policy, economics, consulting, market research, strategic advising, and more. Today we'll be learning more about the program's curriculum and career paths. Dr. Johannes, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing this lovely Wednesday?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's great to be here, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And before we go and dive into everything, my common question that Doug has been asking all of his guests, I'll ask you as well. How have you been handling the COVID-19 pandemic? Has it been affecting your research, or how is everything going on there?
In general, I think things are going quite well. So the DMV area where I live here close to DC has done a lot better than many parts of the United States.
That's
I've
good.
been doing online teaching for a long time, so the shift to Zoom wasn't that difficult for me. Probably the most difficult thing is I do a lot of work in India, and that's right now not possible. So that's on hold. But other than that, we are hanging in there.
That's really cool with the work in India. I'm sorry that it can't be happening right now, but I really hope that when things smell over, that it'll be a smooth transition going back into work.
I think it will be.
That's awesome. So just gonna go ahead and dive right on into it. First off, I'd like to start by asking you about the Masters of the Arts program in Sustainable Energy. What was your inspiration for forming this degree program? And what kind of perspectives will graduate students in this program develop throughout the courses that they take?
The motivation for this particular program was that we really wanted to create something that is very focused on the specific issue of clean energy or sustainable energy. We already offered a pretty robust concentration in energy resources and environment. And there's lots of schools that have either kind of a traditional engineering focus on energy or an environmental focus, but we didn't find too many high quality sustainable energy programs that take a more interdisciplinary approach. So we thought it would be useful to have something that focuses on this industry, which is really doing well and one of the most important growth industries, both in the United States and globally. And so we take a pretty interdisciplinary approach. We emphasize, on the one hand, economics and finance, which is obviously essential for this industry. We also take into account policy, governance, and politics. My own background is in political science. And we also look at issues like technology, international issues, development, and so on. So it's kind of interdisciplinary, but I would say a pretty heavy focus on the social science side, as opposed to the technical or engineering side of things.
Awesome. Do you feel that in a lot of programs that are currently out that they're lacking in the social science area, and that's kind of a big part in why your program has the focus on that?
I would say that if you look at energy in particular, by far the most common approach would be some kind of a technical or engineering approach.
Hmm.
The second most common would be, let's say, energy economics. So I think there's quite a few programs that have a pretty strong economics focus, but there are very few that also bring in these issues like governance or politics that I think are equally important in any kind of public policy. So that's where we feel a gap, in my opinion.
That's really awesome. I'm really, really glad that your program is addressing the policy and politics that's involved in creating the new green economy. And so with the curriculum, like going into that, like could you walk me through some of the classes? Like are there going to be courses that you specifically teach? And like how is it like structured workload wise, like the type of assignments that you think will be offered for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an online degree and it is a cohort-based degree. So that
Mhm.
means that the students go through all the courses together as a group. There are
Oh,
no
okay.
electives, there are no concentrations. Everybody goes through the same sequence of 10 courses.
Mhm.
And those courses include everything from basics of policy analysis to kind of sustainable energy, technology, and science. We have an economics module, we have a finance module, we have a class on energy for development, and so on and
Mhm.
so on. There's also going to be a capstone project where the students do their own research. Right now, it looks like I will be teaching two of the classes. One is the policy analysis class, the other one is energy for development, and I will also be the capstone advisor. So I will work with the students on the capstone projects. I would say that what is really exciting for me is the capstone because we are going to have this residency here in DC. So the students come here to DC for a week to work on
Oh,
those
okay.
capstone projects. Many people don't realize this, but the DC area is actually a really huge clean technology hub today. I think because of many of these government agencies, the World Bank and all that. But there's a lot of industry here in this area now. So it's a very exciting place for the students to spend some time doing their own research, meeting with experts, and so on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that DC had a lot of the clean energy out there. Last time I was there was in like high school years ago. Like our marching band got invited, and it was fascinating being out in DC. It's definitely a very interesting, busy, and exciting place to explore. That's for sure.
That's right. That's right.
hmm so if you could tell me, so the week that students spend on campus, is that going to be covered by the program, like that's in the full cost for it, or is that something that they have to fundraise for in order to be out there? Are there scholarship
So
opportunities or?
the residency is covered in terms of room and board. So we provide the accommodation, meals, and
Okay.
everything. The students do need to pay their own tickets, the airfare or whatever train ticket if you come from Philadelphia. And that's because you might have somebody coming from India and somebody coming from Arlington. The
Mm. Mhm.
different costs, so we don't want to impose the same fees on everybody for these things. But everything else is covered in the tuition cost.
Okay.
The students are eligible for federal student aid. So we don't provide institutional aid for this particular degree, and that's because it's already priced at about 50% of our regular degree. So it's still a decent amount of money. So
Yeah.
the reality of studying at these top universities today, but it's significantly less expensive than a regular kind of in-person in DC degree would be today.
And it's cheaper because it's available online, right? So they don't have to pay.
Yeah, so if you think of you still have the professor. So when we say online, it's not online as in these sort of massive online courses where you watch videos and that's it. Take a multiple, answer quiz or something like that.
Mhm.
It is really, I'm teaching one summer course using this system right now. We have a discussion forum, we have weekly virtual meetings, assignments, there's a teaching assistant. So there's quite a bit of interaction and engagement throughout the process.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. Um, so with after finishing the capstone, because I'm assuming that's the very last part of the program, are these capstone projects that your students are able to go and do? Do they line up with career opportunities? Like, is there like internships that like directly line up after that, or what do the job prospects and internships look like after they start ending the program?
Yeah, so the capstone, it really depends on the student. If students are interested in working with the client, that's great. We strongly encourage it, but we do expect the student to put some sweat equity into finding those clients. So we don't line the clients up for them. So it's really up to the student. I think that is a very good way to get the foot in the door, if you will, when it comes to the job markets. The students will have access to the same career services that all other Johns Hopkins Sci students have. So they will have the alumni network, they will have the career advisor who has a kind of good network and knows a lot of people in this industry. In terms of job prospects, I think we have a pretty sort of healthy balance of people. The private sector is the most common, so many people go and become things like, like research analysts, government affairs work, regulation. We have a lot of people who go also government jobs, federal government, state, local, and then our single most important employer is the World Bank because it's here in DC. So a lot of people go and start their career doing some kind of consultancy or a young professionals program at the World Bank.
That's really interesting, actually. I had no idea that the World Bank would have been one of the biggest career opportunities out there. But now that makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. So for students that are taking a look at your program and are really fascinated by it, like myself, what are you looking for in applicants? I was reading on John Hopkins, in the brochure, that they don't really concern themselves with the GRE or those kinds of testing scores. So if Johns Hopkins isn't worried about testing scores, how do they determine the eligibility of an applicant? What specifically is your program looking for?
Yeah, so first of all, the reason why we are not concerned with testing scores is that they don't really give you a good understanding of the sort of full picture of the student, and they tend to reward more kind of, let's say, good family background and expensive tutors rather than actual kind of preparedness for this kind of work. So we don't think that's really a right or the fair way to assess students. What we do instead is we look at the purpose, we look at transcripts, we ask them to submit an essay that tells something about clean energy, sustainable energy, their understanding, and we also ask for letters of recommendation. So those are some of the materials that we use. And then if necessary, we also sometimes interview students.
Oh, okay.
If there are some parts of the kind of application that we don't fully understand, so we might ask some follow-up questions.
Got it. So the interviews is just kind of to say they had an internship in a more local area, not a big company, be so what did you do here? What does this company actually do? That kind of.
Yeah, and so one example could also be that suppose that you have a statement of purpose that's a bit unusual. You might then want to talk to students okay, why do you want to study in this program, and what do you think we will be doing? Also to check that the students are aware of what we actually do and what the program is like. Because of course, these kind of online degrees are new. That there aren't that many that are this kind. There's a lot of online degrees where you watch videos and you take multiple choice tests, but there aren't that many where you have the same kind of engagement. So we want to make sure students understand how this work and whether it might be a good fit for them.
Got it. So it being different than other online courses, so is there still set class meeting times, and then it's just all done through Zoom or another program that maybe the university has, or that kind of setup?
Yeah, so the way a typical week works is that there's a set of kind of passive or asynchronous activities. So this would include things like watching pre-recorded lectures, doing some reading. Then there is a virtual session, which we have once a week. It's not typically mandatory because we really want this to be a flexible degree. This is something that's you can have while keeping a full-time job. So you don't need to leave your job to do this degree. That is very important for us. Our target audience is working professionals. So again, it's not only more affordable than a regular degree, but you will be making money at your job while you do this. So it's a huge advantage for the student in terms of finances, right? Mind blown.
Yeah, mind blown. That's amazing that your program's taking consideration for that.
Exactly. So that's what we go for. And then the assignments are very important. So there's more writing and other kind of engagement than in a typical class because you don't have the 2 hours in the same room.
Yeah.
So we make up for that. For example, the class I'm teaching right now, we have the discussion forum, and that's just great because students engage and they participate, but they do it in a way that's a lot more informed than in a classroom because they have time to actually find references and use data and all that. So I've actually found the discussions really enlightening.
That's incredible. And so then how many hours per week is the workload? Because I saw the program's like 21 months. And then if so, someone's still able to work full time while going to school. So what is the actual like unit hour workload per week if you have an estimate on that yet?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So it is intense because the way we do it is each class or course takes only 8 weeks. So
Okay.
it's done in half the time as compared to a kind of regular college or graduate school degree. But you're only doing one at a time. So during one semester, which is what we do at Hopkins, you would take 2 classes. So that you
Okay.
could say that it's about like half of the workload of a regular in-person degree at any given time. So if a regular degree takes you, I don't know, 30, 35 hours a week, if you divide it by 2, I would say it's somewhere between 15 and 20 hours, depending a bit on like what's your level of preparedness. If you come in and you've already been in the solar industry for 5 years, a lot of it is probably, like you can get going a lot faster. If you
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
background at all, you probably have to work harder. So I would say 15 to 20 hours a week is probably a good estimate.
Yeah, that's not bad at all for it being a master's program. That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's a 40 credit program, whereas our regular program is 64 credits. So if you think of it, both of them are 21-month programs. So yeah, so you do get a pretty it's a reasonable workload. It's hard work. I mean, if you work
Oh,
full
yeah.
time, put another 15 to 20 hours, that's no joke. But we really want it to be such that you can do it while working. That's really important for us.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a course load that like people would drown under like while working, especially since like as you said just a moment ago with it being one class for 8 weeks. So it's more hyper focused as opposed to like, you know, I'm remembering just like undergrad like 5 classes for, 16 weeks or something like that.
I think the
Yeah.
other difference is that the classes also continue during the summer. So this is a 12
Oh,
months a year program.
okay.
So that's a big difference. Whereas, as you know, in an undergrad or typical master's program, you're there somewhere like early September to late May or
Mhm.
some such. Whereas we don't have that. So we keep going 12 months a year.
So do you have like winter like little breaks
Oh,
throughout
yeah.
instead of like a full? Okay.
So, yeah, so we have Thanksgiving, then we have a little winter break. We have a summer break. So we have, but they're shorter breaks. They're not
Okay.
like 3 month breaks, like a week here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, not like 3 months and then everyone forgets what they learned.
But no, we keep going throughout
Mhm.
the 21 months.
Cool. This is so fascinating. This program sounds like so much fun, and I love how thoughtful, like yourself and the other members who have decided to put this program together have been in like considering, um, like the type of students that would be looking at this kind of program. That's really, really cool. And so like what kind of like case studies are you interested in including in your curriculum? So I know that you have like the classes. I'm not sure how far along you guys are with planning them out for this upcoming. I'm not. I think semester is the wrong word. Like year.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
this upcoming year. Um, so what kind of, if you're okay with sharing, like case studies and specific like sectors of research are going to be mentioned in some of these classes?
Yeah, so there's 10 courses, so it's going to be a lot of stuff. But for example, in my policy analysis class, we will be doing things like looking at the life cycle impacts of different kinds of energy forms. We would be looking at carbon pricing as a climate policy solution. So that class is designed, and I'm kind of doing a dry run right now as a summer course. For it has some of our current size grad students and also some Hopkins undergraduates are in that program. And in the other one that I'm doing, the Energy for Development class, I would imagine we would be doing a lot of country case studies. So, for example, take a really interesting country like Ghana and ask, like, okay, so how did they bring their electrification rate from 5 to 85 in 30 years? Like, how is that even possible? And so we will try to understand how that happens.
How is that even possible?
It is actually a really fascinating story. You should look it up.
Yeah, I will definitely be Googling that after this. It's like, wait, how? um, so what kinds of stories would you like your peers to share with you, like on Simpatico? So, like if you choose to use Simpatico, being more involved here with our community and like potentially bring students in, like what kinds of things should the Simpatico community be sharing with you and your students in relation to this degree program? That could be useful.
So I think one thing that would be really interesting is kind of learning about new technology. So if there are some new things coming out that are not yet getting traction, because those things are always really hard to figure out unless you are an engineer yourself. So having a sort of basic explanation on sort of, I don't know, whatever the latest is on hydrogen or something like that. I think that would be super valuable. I think the another one is exactly these case studies. So if there are some countries or technologies or sectors where you had some really interesting new policies, I think that would also be very helpful. And I guess on a high level also then just some sort of kind of big think stuff is always interesting. So for example, one really interesting topic right now is what about sort of racial justice and discrimination in the environmental world? If you look at many of the boards of these NGOs, they tend to be pretty white.
Yeah.
So what do we do about that? Because many of the victims of environmental pollution actually tend to be minorities. So why are they not better represented in our community? These are the kind of questions that something a bit political would also be, I think, really interesting and helpful.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot coming out in environmental justice, especially like with the BLM movement. I remember it started being talked about quite a bit in my sophomore year. They brought in like a whole environmental justice class that just surrounded it, and learning about how a lot of these like toxic dumps or you can look at just looking at Flint, like how that water situation is still going on. So I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more reports now. There's a lot more people their eyes are hyper focused on it. And I'm really hoping we'll get some really, really good informational reports that also provide solutions that like we can dive into right away as opposed to like postponing it perpetually like we've seen. Mm-hmm. And would it be all right if collaborators who would like to share this information or work with you on potential projects or like political discussion, would it be cool if they could directly message you on Simpatico?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome.
No problem at all.
Well, that is a lot of the questions that I had. And thank you so much for answering them. And got it a little bit actually on time. Very exciting. So I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. We're gonna move into the just chatting. So if chat has any questions for you, that'll be like 5-ish minutes, 5-10, and then yeah, cool. So I'll run the end credit scene, and I'll be right back with you.